From the moment I woke up, I had so much energy, and I'm feeling those heightened senses now. Hey guys, so I've just finished a 5-day water fast. That's 0 calories, water only, and just wanted to share my experience around the 5 days of water fasting. I'm going to run through each day and how I felt on each day and what you can expect. I just found there wasn't many resources when I first got into water fasting. Now I've done several water fasts and different durations. My max has been 5 days, I've done it twice, and lots of 3 days, lots of 48 hours and lots of time restricted eating. And I just want to share some strategies around what I did and just share my experience. So the reason I first got into water fasting was because, at the time I was feeling, not at my full potential. I feel like I had a few bad habits around my eating and my drinking and other, things within my body, just wasn't feeling full. And I did a little bit of research and heard a little bit about water fasting and decided to give it a go. And when I started, I had been doing a fair bit of ketosis, so a ketogenic diet. I was really quite strict with that, so I did get good results. I did test my blood for glucose and ketones during ketogenesis, and my build-up for fasting, I think, came quite natural when I did do my first water fast. And I went straight for a 5-day water fast, and that first one, coming out of that, was such a profound experience that I don't think I can explain through words, to be honest. I'll do my best during this water fast to explain each day how I felt and what I'm feeling afterwards now, and hopefully that can give you an idea of how I went through it. Some of the reasons why I wanted to get into fasting was for the potential benefits to rejuvenate old cells. So what happens is this process called autophagy, and the cells start to break down old cells. It's pre-cancerous cells, cancerous cells, and just dysfunctional cells get broken away during a fasting period and makes room for new vibrant cells to be born into the body and for you to feel more energy and more powerhouse within your body. So you definitely feel that. After a water fast, you are feeling amazing. When you refeed properly, and you go through the refeeding process and go back to eating really nice food, because your body does feel like a temple again after a water fast. You do want to put just the best quality food into it. Even coming into the water fast, you might have some bad habits. You might be eating things you don't want to be eating or drinking things you don't want to be eating. But coming out of it, you're just like, why would I waste the opportunity to put good quality food into my body on every meal? So that's something that happens after a water fast. You've just got this sense of empowerment within your body, and you just don't want to mistreat that. So something also is to increase, fat loss. But for me, it wasn't about fat loss. So it was just to stay lean and to maintain my muscle mass during the period of that. So before fasting, extended fasting, I was doing a lot of ketosis, like I was saying, and that process there helps you to your body to start to use fat as an energy. If you think about it, our whole lives, most of us, woke up, we had cereal for breakfast, we had sandwiches for lunch, we had pasta for dinner. We're not giving our body the opportunity to use body fat as energy. Now your liver is 2,000 calories within your liver of glycogen, and think of it like a water glass. So if you fill up your water glass with sugar, which is your carbohydrates and overeating proteins, that turns into this glycogen tank, and it overflows. When it overflows, it's turned into fat and stored within your body. But the thing is, we're not giving our body the opportunity to burn that sugar back down, because when this tank gets low, we get hungry, we fill that tank back up, and overflows, we store more fat. We don't actually get to the point where our body starts using body fat as energy. So, and that's when you start to go into ketosis and create ketones. So understanding that, I was really intrigued for ultra distance endurance exercises and triathlon. So I was doing a 100K run last year, and I was also doing Ironman training and stuff like that. So I wanted to see if this ketosis could help, which naturally led into fasting. But even during ketosis, as good as that feels, nothing compared to the 5-day water fast. Even when I did 3 days, even when I did 48-hour fast, 5 days seemed to be the one which gave me this ultimate respect for food and this new amount of energy within my body. Now, I've read a lot around autophagy doesn't really start to happen until after 3 days anyway, so you sort of see these cells are burnt off, makes room for new cells, and then we can create these newer, better cells within our body, which gives us more energy. Even though fat burning wasn't a priority for me, if you do have body fat you want to burn, then you can see when we deplete this sugar storage tank within our liver, you know, we've got 60 to 100,000 calories of fat to burn within our body. If we're between 10 to 20% body fat, there's a lot of fat there to burn. And people go, how do you survive when you don't eat for that long? Well, your body starts to use body fat as energy. And that's how we can survive for such a long period without any food. So this is something that people need to understand, because if you're overeating your carbohydrates and overeating protein, that's just overflowing constantly and storing fat, and you're never giving your body a chance to actually burn it up. That's why people who go to the gym and work out super hard, they deplete this sugar tank, but then they go and eat a big carby meal, fills that back up, didn't give your body a chance to burn the body fat off. So this is such a good process for you if you want to start to get into something like this for weight loss reasons. Another benefit that I read about and experienced is the heightened senses during a water fast. Your body starts to see things more clearly, all the colors are brighter, you can hear better, all of my sinuses, my smell, everything went heightened, and even my touch went heightened. Like it's harder to regulate your temperature during a water fast, and even touch and feel is heightened. And when you go and eat that meal after 5 days of not eating, the food is explosive and exciting, and it's just, this is where you can eat like a carrot and you just go, oh my God, this carrot is so amazing, you know? Because you can really appreciate the food for what it is, and it's such a powerful thing. If you think about back in the hunter-gatherer days when people would go out hunting for days and days not eating, their senses need to be heightened. So when you're in ketosis, all of your senses are heightened, and you're able to hunt better. And so that's why they were able to get the food that they needed, and then they could feed the family or whatever it was. So that's definitely obvious during a water fast. You can see how that happens. So it's definitely something I've experienced during this 5-day water fast. So my goals for this 5-day water fast is to do the water fast, water only. The only supplements I'm going to take is salt. I'm taking pink Himalayan salt and magnesium, just pure magnesium supplement. I try not to get the blends because that's got other things in there that could change the way that your body reacts. I'm just trying to keep it as pure as possible. And I'm just having filtered water, and I do have S. Pellegrino sparkling water, mineral water, and those are the only things that I'm having during this fast. Also, my exercise goals were to do a 5-kilometer run, 20 minutes of heat exposure, 10 minutes of cold exposure, and then 50 push-ups, burpees, sit-ups, and deadlifts on each day of the 5-day water fast. I'm also going to be testing my blood glucose and blood ketones on each day, just to see whereabouts those are sitting and how deep in ketosis am I. Ketosis is a measurement of how much body fat I'm burning during a water fast. So it's good for me to be able to see my blood ketones, which is where I prick my finger with a little lance, and then I squeeze out the blood and put it on a little tab, which will read the ketones and glucose. Now, like I said, glucose is the sugar within your body, and the ketones is a byproduct of the fat being utilized. Anyway, onto my experience with the 5-day water fast. This time I actually didn't prepare for it. I normally would do a couple of days of ketosis, or even just one day before, where I'd just have fats. I would have like grass-fed butter, coconut oil, ghee, grass-fed ghee, olive oil. Not much, but I would be getting myself into ketosis before I started my fast, and that would help that period which people find so hard, which is the transition through from sugar burning to fat burning, within the body. So that little hack there has helped me, and from all of the fasts that I've done, it was almost seamless when I did that. But this time I actually finished the night when I decided to do the fast. I had had starchy carbohydrates, I've had lots of vegetables, and I would have definitely not been in ketosis. So I started from baseline on 0 millimole ketones probably. So going into the fast this time, you know, I had to let my body naturally go into ketosis with nothing else in it. Throughout the first day, I actually went pretty good through that day. I didn't have too much hunger cravings in the first day, and obviously I'm used to time-restricted eating, so that's probably why I didn't get much hunger pains during that day. I didn't see much of a change in my body because it's probably something I do every day anyway, and moving through that first day, you know, there wasn't much weight loss, there wasn't much change in my body composition with taking photos, and you know, even my appetite or anything was different. So at the end of day 1, my ketones were at 0.5 and my blood sugar is still at 4.8. So that shows me that I'm still largely using my sugar stores and my ketones are staying really low, so I'm not actually burning a lot of fat just yet. With the end goal here to be sort of around the same level on ketones and glucose. It shows me that I'm still largely using my glycogen stores in my liver and I'm not actually in full fat burning mode yet. So that millimole is a measurement of how many particles in the blood, and it's done, you know, through the Lansing and testing on this strip. So day 2 got pretty tough for me, and the reason is, you know, your glucose is slowly depleting and the ketones are slowly rising, but they're not sort of meeting anywhere in the middle. So you're having this deficit where you're not getting enough energy, and I definitely noticed that in day 2. So day 2, I sort of felt quite dumb. Like I just wasn't quite with it. Like I wasn't firing like I'm normally firing. I'm usually quite onto it. I'm very focused, task orientated. I sat down to do some journaling. I couldn't even think how to write the sentence or what to write about. And when I went to work, it was hard for me to function on that day. So really grateful on that day that I wasn't too busy and I could just relax and just let that experience happen. And you sort of just got to let yourself go on that day and it's the tough point where a lot of people give up, and you just have to push through that period, because from all of the testing that I've done, it's when your glucose depletes and your ketones go higher, and then what will happen is you'll have this quick crossover where the ketones spike up and you get this rush of energy. And that sort of happened at the night of day 2, and then flowing into day 3, I definitely knew I was in ketosis. At the end of day 2, I'd done all my exercises. I'd done the 5K run, heat exposure, cold exposure, and the exercises again. And my ketones were now at 1.1 and my glucose was sitting around 4 to 4.5 throughout the day. So on day 3, this is where the energy started to pick up. My ketones had risen, and I've got this new energy where my body's using my body fat as energy, as its primary energy source. And I'm feeling those heightened senses now. I'm feeling, you know, the bright colors, the better smell, the better touch. To smell food was so amazing. It's like you could taste it. It's like you were eating it because you could smell it and it's like, oh my God, this is so good. So on day 3, you know, I was back at work, I was firing again, I was feeling really good. I went out and did my 5K run. I did the exercises, heat exposure, cold exposure, again on day 3. My ketones, that day was quite good, you know. My ketones were up around 2 now, and my blood sugar is down to around 3. So they're nearly around the same spot in day 3, and they're about to cross over, and that's when you just, you know, start to feel really good. One thing I noticed, which you might not be aware of, is after exercising, because you're utilizing glucose for your muscles, you do have a glycogen spike in your blood test because you're releasing glycogen and you're using gluconeogenesis is when your body uses your body protein, which is your muscles, and breaks that down to create sugar, and it will send it out through your blood, and it rises your glucose level and actually pushes down the ketones level. So you get a bit of a dip in ketones and a spike in glucose post-exercise for a couple of hours, and then it returns back, the glucose drops back down and the ketones spike back up. So definitely noticed that through these fasts and through exercise during this fast and testing regularly. And by the end of day 3, I actually had a lot of aching. So the aching was happening behind my knees and my back and my hips. And it's a lot of pain that I was feeling doing my ultra distance running when I was like training 100 Ks a week or more in running. And that, that was this impact that I was feeling again through this fast. So maybe that's something that I needed to heal. So from that day, I changed my exercise routine to not include any running. And I wasn't sure if it was the cold exposure as well, because I'd come out of the cold exposure last and it was really cold, and I'd feel that coldness in my body, and I didn't know if it was the stiffness of being that cold that caused me to feel that aching throughout my body. So from day 4 onwards, I dropped the run and I dropped the cold exposure. So on day 4, I just want to start with the ketones and the glucose testing from my blood. With the glucose and the ketones testing on day 4, this is when my ketones were now between 3 and 4 and glucose was between 3 and 4. They were just hovering around each other. They were sort of, depending on what I was doing throughout the day, if I was being active or I was walking more or whatever. If I was stationary, the ketones went higher. If I was moving a lot, then the glucose would go higher. So they would just like play off each other. But the energy on day 4 was really high now. So I'm feeling great. That I still had a little bit of aching because it was just the day before that I was running, and the aching was still there. And so I was just conscious of that, and I was wondering, should I wake up and do a run today? And that's the day I decided, I'm not going to do the run. I'm just going to let my body heal. And from some wise words from my wife as well, and her concern, she just shared that, it's probably best just to take it easy, and I agreed. And just to let my body heal through this period as well. And I felt like I came into this wanting to heal and not to overtrain or anything like that. In my first water fast I ever did, I did a 3K run every day and a 500 metre swim every day with heat exposure and cold exposure. And then on the last day I did a 12K run. And that was my first ever 5-day water fast. And I was hoping to come out of this one and do a half marathon at the end, but my body was saying things to me that I had to respect. So I decided to just go through, let my body heal and let my body do that autophagy, give it the energy it needs to heal, and for me to just sit with this feeling that I was feeling, which is just this incredible energy, heightened senses. I was getting out every day, I was breathing fresh air, I was thinking about, at this stage, thinking about lots of food and preparing my meals for when I ate again. I was going for a 6-day fast in this one. So on this one, I just chose to let my body heal for the last couple of days, let that autophagy kick in, let my cells replenish and get rid of those, and use the energy I had to get rid of those, dysfunctional cells, precancerous cells and cancerous cells that I had throughout my body. So day 5 is the last day of the water fast, and I was feeling so good on day 5. From the moment I woke up, I had so much energy. It seemed like from day 2, it was a really tough day energy-wise, but as the days went on from there, it was more and more energy every single day. I originally thought I was going to do 6 days, but I did cut it short to refeed in time for the weekend, because restaurants have just opened during this COVID period and I wanted to go out and experience some food. So I cut it off at 5 days with the refeed, which I'll talk about in a little while. So on day 5, this incredible energy, heightened senses, feeling really good. The aches by day 5 had actually really gone down. I didn't have any aching anymore. I still did my exercises, the heat exposure, no cold exposure, no run. And I really made the most of that day. I was really productive at work. I got a lot done, and in the afternoon sort of started to kick in. I started to think about food a lot. Coming to the end of a fast, and your mind, you're coming to the end of the fast, that's when you start to think about food quite a bit. So for my blood ketones and glucose on day 5, I was sitting around 4 for my ketones and around 3 for my glucose. So well and truly in deep ketosis at this point. My body's using more ketones than glucose, and it's just burning a lot of fat as its energy. So yeah, it was such a good experience. I know I was coming to the end of it and couldn't wait to get stuck into my first meal. So at the end of day 5, started to prepare my refeed. So the refeed, I actually created a bone marrow, grass-fed bone marrow broth, and we had some vegetables in there like celery and peppercorns, cloves, and onion, and garlic, and put all of that into a pressure cooker and cooked it up, and made a really incredible bone broth. And I had some, gristle and marrow and some meat in there as well. And I only had a little bit of that because I mainly had the drink. To end the fast, I ended with just the broth, the fat and the gelatin of the broth, and with some hot water, and drank that slowly over about an hour. And then I was just preparing and warming up my stomach enzymes and my digestive enzymes ready for my first meal. And so then I started cooking the meal, and this was super exciting because when you're this far fasted and you start to smell the cooking food and all of these different things that are happening, it's a really cool experience. So I actually made quite a lot of different foods, but I only had a little bit of each type. So I made this broth with sweet potato, onion, celery, and I put 3 drumsticks on top, and the chicken fat and everything flowed into the vegetables. And when I ate a little bit of chicken, I only had like half a drumstick of chicken. When I ate it, the flavour was incredible. The sweet potato had the chicken fat and the flavours in there, and it was incredible. And the food is just like, oh my God, like it is an appreciation for everything. Just eating one sultana, boom, flavours incredible. One piece of vegetable, incredible. Like, it's such a cool experience. And this is where the respect feeling came back in, was when I was actually trying the food again. And so this respect for food, the respect for my body, it's like I only want to put the best into my body from now on. That was one of the biggest profound moments. Another thing that I noticed in my last 5 day, and I don't think I've given myself enough time at the moment, was actually burnt up a lot of negative energy and thoughts and anger that I was holding on to. I never thought there would be a psychological benefit, and I don't know if there's any science behind this, but what I experienced, I wasn't angry anymore, I wasn't frustrated with certain things, I just got this real sense of calm post-fast for quite a while, and it helped me to get into the place that I want to be in my life, and it was easy to maintain from there. Reintroducing foods back into your diet after a fast, it's like you're very selective, and that becomes your new normal, and so that becomes your habit, and then that becomes your new lifestyle and the way that you live your life. So that was probably one of the surprise benefits that came out of doing a 5-day water fast that I don't think I've given enough time after this recent one to experience yet. So a lot of questions that people ask around the fasting while I was doing it, and I see a lot of people having problems with it, with the people I've done fasting with in the past, is they don't have enough salt and magnesium, which are electrolytes within the body. They're the signals, they help the signals throughout your body travel through your body. So what comes with that is like aches, pains, headaches, tiredness, dizziness, all of these things, because there's not enough electricity being able to run through your body during this period. Now, what I personally did was I just had salt when I felt like I needed it. I only had magnesium once a day, but when I was actually aching, I had it in the morning and night. And I just had the dosage for me. But I would just have salt when I felt like I needed it. I had quite a lot in the morning, so I'd wake up and have like 20 to 30 grinds of salt. It might have been like 3 to 5 grams of salt, pink rock Himalayan salt. And that would, in a warm cup as well, it sort of tasted like soup. So it sort of tasted like I was having soup, but that replenished my salt levels and it helped my body function properly. So I think the biggest issue I see people having is they don't have enough salt or magnesium, and they start to get these adverse effects when they're doing their fast. So what I do recommend also is reach out to your doctor, health professional. Make sure that you got someone there to support you, or someone who's done lots of fasting before to help you through this process. It is such a transformational process, and I think it's important that you have someone there to help you. I've had a couple of people say they try to do fast but then they gave up, and it's because they didn't have the right support during that fasting process. So make sure that you reach out to a health professional or a fasting master, and make sure they help you through. When you're struggling, they can give you some guidance about what to do. And one other thing I see people doing is that they're not testing for their blood ketones and glucose during a water fast. You don't have to. It's not a compulsory thing, but it definitely gives you that indication of the way that you're feeling. You do feel, when I measured every couple of hours on the first fast, you do feel when that ketones kicks up and the glucose goes down, you're like, I feel a bit tired, I wonder how I'm rating in this. But it also gives you a measurement to guide yourself along, and you're waiting for those ketones to kick up. And when you're feeling like what most people will get to is a point where they're like, I can't do this anymore, I'm going to start to eat because I'm really struggling, I'm tired, I've got a headache or whatever, and they give up. If you just knew you were just around the corner and your ketones were actually climbing and you're just around the corner from actually getting into ketosis, then that would definitely be a motivation. If you could see it climbing, that's a motivation for you to keep going. So I think measuring during the process is really important. You can get ketone strips for urine, but they don't give an accurate measurement on hydroxybutyrate, which is the ketone that we want to test in the blood. And on that topic of measuring, I just want to point out an app that I used for the first time during this water fast. And big shout out to these guys. So this is the Zero app, and it's actually fantastic for learning about fasting, whether it's time restricted eating or extended fast. So this is me the day after my 5 days finished. I'm coming up to 18 hours fasted again. I'm doing a 24-hour fast to finish it off after my refeed yesterday. And yeah, looking forward to that meal that I have today as well. And I think anything that you've got with a timer or a gauge that's going to help you, see where you're at in each phase of your fast, which this app does, it's going to be really powerful to helping you get through to that next stage. So guys, that's my experience around a 5-day water fast. I really encourage you to start playing around with this. There's so many, and experimenting and researching yourself around this and seeing if this works for you. I have had so many profound benefits from it, and I do between a 16 to 20 hour fast daily, and I'll just have an eating window between 8 and 4 hours. Depending on how I'm feeling throughout the day, that will change the way that I eat. So guys, that's my 5-day water fast experience, and I hope it gave you some idea around fasting, gave you some tips, and gave you some insight into what it could feel like for you. And I'm happy to help out if you've got any questions. But yeah, this has been a profound experience for me, and I'll continue to do it regularly, and I think it's such an important thing for you to experience in your life. I think once you do it once, you're going to want to do it again. So all the best, and I look forward to talking to you later.